What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. Well, apparently, President Biden, despite calls from members of his own party to step aside and pick a candidate more suiting to contend with former President Trump and beat him in this fall's election, despite the concerns, Joe Biden has made it clear that he is in for the long haul. Joe Biden is not stepping aside. He ain't a going to nowheres. In a lengthy letter to congressional Democrats today, Biden didn't touch on his disastrous debate or concerns about his age or cognitive health. Instead, he focused on his opponent, former President Trump, making it clear that he's, in his mind at least, the right person for the job for the second time. In the letter, Biden laid out his policies and how he can make a positive difference for the country, especially when compared to Trump's potential mess-ups. And he urged voters to come out there and support him. He wrote, quote, "I can respond to all of this by saying clearly and unequivocally, I wouldn't be running again if I did not absolutely believe I was the best person to beat President Trump in 2024, ex-President Trump 2024. In regards to the four senior House Democrats calling him to throw in the towel after a private call with Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries yesterday, Biden explained he's not blind to the fears and concerns with him getting reelected. He says he understands the responsibility he carries. Similar to 2020, he says, when the quote, the fate of our nation was at stake. Biden wrote, the question of how to move forward has been well aired for over a week now, and it's time for it to end. We have one job, and that is to beat Donald Trump. We have 42 days to the Democratic convention and 119 days to the general election. He concluded any weakening of resolve or lack of clarity about the task ahead only helps Trump and hurts us. It is time to come together, move forward as a united party, and defeat Donald Trump. So he has made it clear that he is not going anywhere. I guess his handlers have told him to basically don't feed into the fallout, and to just be strong and lead and change the narrative back to Donald Trump. It's pretty much what he's doing, change the narrative back to Donald Trump. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm of the opinion that no matter what the Democrats really will do, the electorate, the atmosphere favors Trump being reelected, non-consecutively, of course, but reelected. Because Joe Biden really didn't, there was already, let's not kid ourselves, it was already the belief before the debate by many, and the suspicion by a majority that Joe Biden was slipping. And that debate reinforced whatever beliefs some people had that he wasn't fit for the job. And for those who were suspicious of it, well, that kind of more or less confirmed it. I mean, you can't ignore polls where 70% of Democrats think that you should drop out the race. 80% electorate think that you're not fit to run, which kind of tells you something. Like, if 80% feel that way, then why are some of them still voting for you? But anyway, he's apparently in for the long haul, and I guess it's going to be Biden and Kamala, because they had to make up their minds as to what they're going to do, because, you know, their convention is only 5 weeks away. Hell, the RNC convention starts next Monday, a week from now. So the way I look at it, more than likely, unless they have a disastrous convention, Trump is probably going to get a small small little bump from from the convention. It's not like the old days. We had a lot more. We had a lot more independent voters or flexible voters, undecided voters. It's not like the old days when our country wasn't quite as partisan and the electorate was more elastic, I guess is the way of putting it. When you could have a convention and your candidate could get a 15 or more point bounce, even if it's temporary. That started diminishing in the 2000s. But I wouldn't be surprised if after this convention, Trump gets like a 1 to 2 point bounce in the polls. On top of all of what's going wrong for the Democrats over the last week or so, last week and a half. So, I mean, you could look at it two ways. You could look at it as, if you're a Biden supporter, you could look at it like, look, he's showing strength. He's trying to change the narrative back for Democratic Legion, shift the focus back to Trump. Our quote-unquote mission is to destroy the candidacy of Donald Trump, defeat him in November. That's the mission. So that's more important than whether or not I'm losing it. We'll worry about that later on. More importantly, we got to beat Donald Trump. That's the more immediate threat. You can look at it that way. Or you can look at it like, well, Joe Biden is being pretty selfish right now. There are signs that he could potentially hurt down ticket. He could hurt the Democratic Party down ticket in November. We don't see the same ticket splitting we once did, which what I mean by that is, back in the day, say like when Nixon and Reagan were winning in their landslides, right? Yeah, voters were voting Republican at the top of the ticket, but then you had some voters who would still vote Democratic at the state and local level. You don't have that really anymore. Everybody's so partisan. So if you're voting for Donald Trump, or let's just say even if you're voting third party, more than likely, you're probably not going to vote Democratic lower tier, especially if you're voting Republican. So if you're motivated to vote against Biden, then probably you're going to vote against the Democratic candidates down ticket. And that's where Biden could hurt the party. They could hurt the party. And to be honest with you, in midterm elections, oftentimes Democrats can take heavy losses. Sometimes they can make gains if they do really good at getting out the vote, but historically, oftentimes midterm elections, the electorate is older. The electorate, is older, oftentimes more affluent, more likely voters, and they tend to be, let's be honest, whiter. And because of that, oftentimes in midterms, Republicans make gains. We saw that in 2010 when Democrats lost, 60-something seats in the House. I think it was the biggest bloodbath in the midterm since 1948. And I think they lost like, 7, 8, or 9 House seats or something. So at the end of the day, you can look at it like that, man. Joe Biden could be taking the Democratic Party down to a disastrous defeat overall in November. We got to wait and see. Tell me what you guys think.